So here's how it works. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed, and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you listen to Thrive Loud, and Lou shows you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Thrive Loud listeners, Lou Diamond here. I can't believe that we're already in November. This year has just been a blur, and we're already planning and thinking about what we're doing in 2022. So my head is spinning, and I hope yours is too. So to calm it down, we have a really fun episode with a great guest that was on the program before. This is her second book that she's featuring, the incredible New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling Ora Nadrich, Mindfulness and Mysticism. You're going to love this conversation pulled from Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive. And I reconnect with Ora, and you hear all about what this message is all about. It's really timely at this particular point in the world that we are all experiencing. So enjoy this episode of Ora Nadrich, and be on the lookout for some really fun episodes coming forward here towards the holiday season, and some really amazing programming set up for 2022. Welcome, everyone, to a special episode, which I am so looking forward to, because we have brought back a pioneering mindfulness expert, international keynote speaker and coach, and the founder and president of the Institute for Transformational Thinking. She's a sought-after expert in the fields of mindfulness, transformation thinking, and self-discovery, and her newest book, Mindfulness and Mysticism, comes out on November 11th. 11/11. Ooh, I like that. I am so excited to have her back on the program. Ora Nadrich, how are you today?
Hi, Lou. This is great. It's so wonderful to be here with you again.
I am excited. Listeners need to know that, when I get amazing guests to come on the program, I'm always excited because I go back and I try to listen to the previous episode or try to do some due diligence. But who could keep up? Because you've got so many things going on in your world. I'm looking at what had happened since the last time we had a previous book. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. You and I just discovered when that last episode came. So what I would love to do, or before we start talking about the new book, I want to catch up with you. Can you share with the listeners what's been going on in your world? And we'll try to do a little bit of a rewind since the last time we connected.
All right. Well, as we know, you're right. So much has been going on, in the world at large and, in our own personal worlds. The last time we connected is when I wrote Live True, A Mindfulness Guide to Authenticity. And that book is still out in the world. And I've written a journal, an adjunct, wonderful, lovely journal to that book, which I wrote during the pandemic. So I just want to mention that I have stayed busy and I did that. But I just have been living my life and, kind of with everything that's going on. And I have to say that as much as it's been really challenging, it also inspired my creativity.
Yeah.
So, during that time, I wrote my newest book really before the pandemic hit. I wrote my new book, Mindfulness and Mysticism. And, I'm somebody that always takes a deep dive into mindfulness. That's really my wheelhouse. That's what I love to explore, to teach, to write about. So I think that I would say that this has been an incredibly fascinating time, challenging time, creative time. I did say I had a podcast actually in 2019 when this whole thing just erupted. And I had a podcast, called Mindfulness Monday.
Yeah.
And I just was interviewing other authors and getting into really interesting conversations. And I only intended to do it for that 1 year. And I kept saying, this is a time of a real big spiritual shift. this is a time like, let's take the time to really recognize that this is more than just a virus. This is a time for us to go deep. It's a time to go within. It's a time for self-discovery and self-realization. So I was calling it the Great Awakening, and I really feel that way. So to just really sort of, tell you, and not the entire time we're going to be talking, that's really what this time has been for me. And I was able to, keep my creativity intact, which I'm really excited about.
It's so fitting. As I think back, you made a joke about like linear time and having an understanding of where we are in this world that we're in. And it's kind of funny with what you write about, because are we really mindful of what time it is or what day it is? But I joke about the fact that it has never been more important to really understand the importance of mindfulness. This has been something that was trending before the pandemic, and recognition, awareness, people focusing their worlds on it, meditation taking such a leap into everyone's everyday life. And I think it's also important that the looking within, as you were mentioning, which I guess we can dive a little bit into that mysticism, has made everyone a little bit more aware, a little more conscious. Do you see that?
Totally. And, I think mindfulness is needed now more than ever. And, for those that are really new to the whole concept of mindfulness, mindfulness is really the practice of being present with total awareness. It's really showing up in the moments of your life and really being there, not being somewhere else, not, being in the past or lamenting the past or worrying about the future. It's saying, I'm here in this moment, I'm showing up in this moment, and I am fully present. And with everything that's going on right now, because there's a lot, as we know, I mean, look, this is an unprecedented time. We've never been here before. And as we know, we're dealing with a lot, we're processing a lot, we're having to sort of figure out how to not be inundated with all of the external information and fear and concerns that this time has really elicited and evoked in us. So what I say is mindfulness, to be present, which means that we're really aware of everything that's going on. We need to be. We need to be more aware. We need to be more cognizant of what's going on, because we got a lot to filter through. We have a lot to really check in with daily, check in with ourselves, but also check in with all the information, the stimulation that's coming at us, which is really, the game has been upped, if you will.
Yeah. I want to ask you this question, because I actually think that we have been here before, but we've never had so much access to the information at our fingertips as I'm lifting up my telephone or my computer in front of me. And we've never had so many ways for people to communicate about it, through social media, through their voices, through their messaging, and the nonstop bombardment of this, as opposed to when the news just used to air at 6 o'clock or at 11 o'clock at night. It just never stops. To someone that is focused on the art of being present and being mindful, what are some of the things that you do? And I'm actually interested in what you did when you had to put this messaging together during the pandemic to maintain that focus, to maintain that presence with all these distractions going on.
Such a good question. You really, put in there a lot of things that are important, like bombardment. We've been bombarded. And so I knew this was going to be a game changer. I knew that when we're faced with something that is affecting the whole entire world, that this is going to be a whole different game, story, situation, whatever you want to call it, experience. And I knew that I needed to really be as present as I could possibly be. I write about mindfulness. I teach mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of the most important things that I feel I can contribute to helping people become more aware and more awake. And what really ignited in me around that is that I thought, you're right. Well, this isn't just about like, oh, our lives are normal and we're going to come home, we're going to have dinner, we're going to turn on the news. We're not doing that in the same way. Maybe some people are. I know for me personally, I wasn't. I thought, wow, I feel like there's so much information coming at us. Again, to use your word, bombarded. um, I want to know what's going on. I want to be a really aware, awake person. I want to be able to get information that I think is really important. I want to be able to make decisions that I think is really important. I want to be able to know what I'm talking about, because one of the things that I really noticed about this time that was very concerning to me was that there was a lot of polarization.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of people who everybody's trying to process and make sense and get back to normal and have a sense of normalcy, if you will. That I've always been an observer of life to begin with, and I've always really taken in everything around me. And I'm so trained in mindfulness that I'm hyper vigilant in my awareness. So I thought, well, what's going on? It feels like there's also polarization because people are trying to do their best to process what you said, being bombarded with so much information. So I basically found myself, really with it. And I actually felt like I demanded of myself to be more present. I demanded myself to be a better listener. I demanded of myself to really show up in the moments of my life. I wanted to be a really good listener. I wanted to be a really good observer. I wanted to really take in the information that I was getting and not rush to judgment and not be ahead of myself. So it made me a more mindful human being, if anything. I would say it really increased my mindfulness, if you will.
Which is impressive, by the way. I would say that I think a lot of people felt that they lost their minds during that period of time and trying to deal with it. The writing itself of the book, I'm actually curious because maybe let's do a comparison since I've had the opportunity to talk about the last book, Live True, and now this. Any specific difference in the process as you've been pulling stuff together that you did this time around versus the last?
That's a really good question because I feel that when I wrote Mindfulness and Mysticism, it was before the pandemic hit. And when I think of the book now, I think how timely it is. And I really do feel that I was meant to write this book. And I felt like the book came to me in a very strong way, that I was guided to write it. And, I use the word downloaded, for anybody, who understands. Downloading is just another way to receive information, and everybody receives their information differently. And it's the way you would download something on your computer is the way we can download information. So I feel like there was something that was really calling to me when I wrote this book. It was really resonating for me. And because my books are really based in mindfulness, I knew that I wanted to take it even deeper. I knew that I wanted to take a deeper dive into mindfulness, into different areas that nobody that I was aware of was doing. So I felt really called to write this book.
Speaking of calling, I'm going to have some fun on this one. What an honor and what a privilege. The foreword of this book has been written by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Can we talk? Are you allowed to share maybe your connection to him with around this? Yeah.
Yes. First of all, I feel very blessed to have had His Holiness the Dalai Lama write my foreword. I was just prepared to get a testimonial, and he actually wrote my foreword. So that's very humbling, and I'm very honored to have had that. I had met His Holiness many, many, many years ago. I had gone to one of his huge public appearances here in California many years ago. I was privately invited to an event that they, to witness the monks doing the mandalas, which is so gorgeous. They actually blow these different colored sands, which create these mandalas, and then they blow them away. They literally they're gone. They erase them, which is a very powerful metaphor for the impermanence of life, as the Buddhists talk about. So that was many, many years ago. And when I wrote Mindfulness and Mysticism, I felt very strongly again. I mean, I feel like this is so much of what my book is about trusting guidance and trusting your higher self and trusting your inner wisdom to guide you. And that's what I allowed to happen in this book. So I thought, I'd met His Holiness some years ago. I'm going to just try and reach out and see if there's any way. It seems so far reaching to me that he might endorse my book. Do you know?
Yeah.
So I thought that's like 1 in a million chance that that's going to happen. And I was able to connect with like a third party, and I basically put it out there. I told them that I was writing this book. I had to send them a rough draft of the book, and then I never heard back. So that was really interesting. I was like, let go and let the divine energies that I'm writing about just guide the way, do you know? And I didn't hear back. And again, it was, there was COVID and it was a challenging time. And I just assumed that I wasn't going to hear back. And then I got a message from them. I don't know how much time lapsed, where they said they had read my manuscript and they were going to give me a testimonial. And I was so touched, but then I didn't hear from them again. So time went by, and then I just, again, this was all about, it was as if I was being tested to really live the very things that I'm writing my book, which is really to trust and to have faith and to let go and to really connect to the energies that are of a much more divine nature, which is really what I write about. And literally on Christmas Day, I got the foreword that was sent to me by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. What a blessing.
It's pretty great. By the way, 30 years ago, almost to the day, I'm looking at this right now where we are around this month, or maybe it was in November. I got to meet him at Cornell University. Actually, he spoke and got a chance to sit down at we were in this area that we used to eat at. Cornell University listeners can know it was the Trillium food cafeteria, whatever it was. And he sat down with his team and ordered like a sandwich or something. It was really funny. But I'm like, that's the Dalai Lama. So yeah, it was very, very, very cool.
That's great.
Amazing stuff. So this is great. Maybe let's talk about messages, because the last time I asked you about Live True, I asked you what you wanted readers to take with it. I want to understand what's the main thing that you're driving home with this book.
This is a really special book for me because I really put myself out on a limb, and I went deeper, as I said, into the area of mindfulness. And I brought in a area that not very many people are familiar with, which is the area of mysticism. And people might go like, oh, what's that? That's so esoteric. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. And I thought, I want to demystify mysticism in the 21st century. Yeah. And really, when you deconstruct mysticism, it really is a very spiritual experience, if you will. And I wanted to take mindfulness. I like to pair things together. Like in my last book, Live True, I paired mindfulness with the authentic self. And I thought that's such a great merging of how to really show up in a moment and be who we really are, be the authentic self that we are. For this book, I wanted to take being present and being able to access or to really align ourselves with what would be called divine energies and present it to my reader in ways that aren't just religious. I didn't set out to write a religious book. I consider myself to be more spiritual than I am religious. And I wanted to connect, and especially at a time right now when we are going through so many changes, which is why I think the book is so important. You have to figure that during the pandemic, all the temples and churches and mosques were closed. Yeah. And think about how many millions of people who really are very spiritual and or religious, and they need a place to go to feel connected to something that feels divine or holy or sacred to them, but they had nowhere to go. And I talked about that during the pandemic of being able to go within, to access those sacred divine energies within ourselves, and also to be able to be aligned to it for whatever that means to everybody. For everybody, that's something different. It can be in a religious context, it'd be called God, divine presence, source, unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, oneness, whatever that means for you. And even if you're somebody who doesn't even feel connected to any of what I just said, what meaning does this life hold for you?
Yeah.
I wanted people to take a journey with me in this book so that they can really come to know themselves better than they've ever known themselves before, and to really hold the possibility that life is much more than, I love this quote by French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, which is, we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
So I wanted, when you say, what do I want people to take away? First, I want to bring them into this journey, because I think it's a very special journey to take, and to be open to say, yeah, I want to know more about myself. I want to really connect to something deeper in myself. I want to know what meaning this life holds for me. And I also really want to be able to know that I have a deeper purpose here in my life. And what does that look like for me? Some people need that guidance. Some people want to go deeper into the very things that I'm talking about. And what was most intriguing for me, really, Lou, was that I was presenting it in a non-religious context. So that includes everybody. No matter what religion you have, or if you're not religious, or you're spiritual, or you're not, it's a much deeper, wider, more expansive conversation to have. And I was excited to have it. I was excited to take that journey for myself. And now I want to bring people on board for it.
Ora, before I do something really fun that we didn't get a chance to do the last time I had you on the program, because we've kind of added that to our arsenal of things we do here, I wanted to ask you a question, and we'll say that we've been joking around with this term POCO, which is like post-COVID versus being in the pandemic. There were a lot of great things that people actually gained from the pandemic, and some things that they'd like to leave behind. And there's some things that they're very much looking forward to as we move forward. I'm going to keep this on the positive spectrum. What's the thing you're looking forward? What do you want to take with you from your experience that you had during the pandemic into the future? And what are you excited about going forward?
Well, such good questions. I see taking forward into the future, me being even more excited, more passionate, more grateful of being alive, and what I can contribute to the world because of who I am as somebody who just went through a huge change in the world. Made me change. It made me a different person, made me a much more, more evolved, more awake, more grateful, more spiritual. Like, I think it heightened all these things for me. I'm excited about taking all of that into my life and into the days ahead, and being able to share it with loved ones, friends, the public. It's very exciting to me, actually.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do something that I know you never would have expected, but you'll have fun with it, and I think you can adapt it. We've been doing this thing called Go Down Fun Street, and it's kind of like a speed round, if you would. I'm going to ask you something, and I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that you connect with, that make you feel good, that motivate you, that push you, that make you thrive, basically. And I think you'll be able to handle it. I don't think any of these are too hard out of the gourd here. So you ready to go down this little fun street with me?
That's you, Lou. Yes.
Okay, let's have a little fun here. Of late, is there a song that you love to listen to, or one that pumps you up?
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. I'm such a music lover, and I've always got music going on in my car. I have actually been listening to more inspirational music. So what would that be? What would that be like? That would be like listening to some inspiring songs by Bob Dylan. That would be like listening to some great songs by Van Morrison. That would mean like listening to songs they're almost like the ones that I started listening to. I mean, I have to say I listen to a lot of music, and I'm in a very musical family. Everybody in my family is in love with music, and they each have their own music that they love. But I wanted to listen to things that were more poetic, if you will.
Okay.
Some of the artists were new that I had never learned, that I'd never known about before. My husband's really big into music, so he would turn me on to some artists, and I'm sorry if I can't think of them
No,
off
it's okay.
my head. But like, yeah, things like that. I was even listening to old music that I hadn't listened to in so long. And I was just watching this incredible special with my husband, with Paul McCartney and Rick Rubin. I think
Yeah.
it's a Netflix. And all these classical Beatles songs and Paul McCartney songs. And I went on that whole journey. It was awesome.
Like it. So stuff poetic. I like the poetic aspect of it. Okay. I can connect with that.
Uh,
A favorite food that's not a dessert.
I'm a real, I love Asian fusion cuisine as a cuisine.
Okay.
So I tend to, like Chinese, Japanese, Thai. That's my favorite kind of food, really. Um,
Is there
I
a
was
dish that you like more than any?
I really love, oh gosh. Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I have to be very creative. So like I'll get vegetarian sushi, or I'll get pad thai noodles without chicken, or vegetable dumplings, and one of the things that I really loved was making banana bread during
Ooh, there
time.
you
So
go.
I really was perfecting banana bread, and
I
I
like
really
it.
fell in love with that during this time.
Okay.
So that was fun.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Oh, I love being on the beach. I
Mm.
love taking walks on the beach. I love being in the water. I had a place by the beach for several years. I don't have it right now, so I have to really take myself to the beach. Um, that's one of my absolute favorite things to do. I love the beach. It's my one favorite place to be.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Because of the nature of my work, and I am so good at teaching this to people in my books. I write about it in Live True. I write about it in Mindfulness Mysticism. Get off your devices.
Yeah.
So I put them down, which is sometimes challenging because I'm an author and I'm a public speaker and I do workshops and I do all these things that sometimes require me to be on social media. I want to make even more of an effort to put that stuff away,
I like it.
which I do anyway, but more of it.
Or if I were to snap my fingers and you could be anywhere in the world, Ora, where are you?
Here.
Ooh, I like that. Right where you are right now. Okay. Very, very cool. Ora Nadrich, amazing to have you back on this program. Thank you so much. I think everyone's going to love mindfulness and mysticism. Truly an honor to have you back on, and even better to hear a little bit about what you've been up to catch up with you, and to share with our listeners all this great stuff that you're putting out in the world. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming back.
Well, Lou, thank you for having me back. So great to have this conversation with you again.
Absolutely.